Hi, welcome to This Week in Ames. On today's show, we'll check in with Ames Electric Services. My guest today is Tim McCullough, Electric Distribution Manager for the City of Ames. Tim, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, there's a lot of things in your areas of expertise to talk about, but before we get there, let's talk a little bit about you and how you have the job that you have today.
Sure. I graduated from Iowa State about 10 years ago and worked for a private utility, Mid-American Energy, for 5 years, and then came back to Ames, where our home is, and started working for the city about 5 years ago.
And you have the distinction of having worked for a lot of different divisions within your department. Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. I was hired on as a power plant engineer when I first started with the city, and then a few years later I took a role as the operations superintendent at the power plant. And just within the last year and a half, I've been working at the distribution office as the manager there.
So the electric department is actually divided into several different divisions, all of them with their own area of expertise. For example, the power plant is actually producing the power. What do the other divisions focus on?
Administration handles administering the whole department. We also have substations and metering that's under a different manager. And my department is distribution. We take the power from the power plant and our outside transmission lines and deliver it to the customers at their home or business.
So when you see those electric services vehicles with the buckets on the back, those are line workers who
Yes.
are busy making sure the electric's going where it should go.
Right.
Sometimes electricity doesn't go where we want it to go. What happens those times?
Well, we're in the middle of thunderstorm season right now, so we've been called out a lot over the last couple months to turn power back on that has been disconnected by trees or squirrels or lightning. So we've been handling a lot of trouble calls. My guys have worked through the night on several occasions the last couple months. So our main focus right now is keeping power on through the inclement weather that we're experiencing. And also this is heavy construction season right now, a lot of new development going on, and my crews are the ones to bring power into new subdivisions, into new commercial development. So we're working a lot to build new circuits and keep other ones running.
So you talk a lot about people coming out. You're a 24/7 operation, calling specialists out at any time of the night. One of the benefits of being a municipally owned utility is that sort of local ownership or the local connection to the community.
Right. A larger utility would have a full-time staffed call center to handle calls at all hours of the night. We have to get a little bit more creative since we keep our staffing low to keep costs low. So the power plant assists us during the nighttime hours by handling our call system where people can call and report power outages. It's an automated hotline. You will talk to a computer. It's difficult for us to answer the phone when we have a large outage. But they handle taking those calls for us, and then they get a hold of us if we need to go out on a trouble call in the middle of the night.
And we're not sending a crew in from another state. We're local.
Yep, our linemen live in our community. A lot of them are our customers as well, so they live just down the street from you and me. So yeah, they're very invested in our community.
So it's interesting. Obviously, having your electricity out any amount of time is an inconvenience, and you learn that very quickly. But those linemen may have power out in their own home. That's how connected they are to the community.
That's right. They have to walk away from their own house that may be out of power and go fix somebody else's first.
So over the years, we've had some pretty large storms. We've also had some smaller incidents that lead to isolated power outages. So let's talk about what you should do as a customer. You come home or you wake up in the middle of the night, you don't have power. What do you do?
First thing you should do is call our automated hotline. Well, I guess the first thing I would suggest is that you go check your breaker panel, make sure something didn't trip inside your house. If part of your lights are on, it's usually an internal problem. Sometimes it can be our issue. But check your breaker panel first if you know how to do that. And then if your power seems to be off outside the panel, you would call us, our 515-239-5240 hotline. It will, in most cases, recognize your phone number that you registered when you signed up for service at your house, and it'll prompt you to report your power out or any other problem that you might have, and that gives the information to our control room to let us know that we have an issue in the city.
So let's talk about that for a minute. So when people first sign up for as an electric customer, they're giving a phone number, and that phone number then is associated with an address as a customer.
That's right.
Now, over the years, a lot of people have moved away from landlines, and now, like in my own house, we only have cell phones. If that's the case, am I still connected? Do you still recognize my address?
No, we won't. If you have a new phone number, if you got rid of a landline or picked up a new cell number, it doesn't automatically register with our system. You have to take action to register it. So you can call customer service during the business hours, or there is a website that you can go to register it. We can maybe print it right here on the shot.
So that website will be on your screen where you need to register to reassociate or to associate a phone number with an address.
That's right.
Okay, so let's say that I have done that. I'm calling you from my cell phone. I've already associated my cell phone number with my address.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to call, and I'm probably not going to talk to a person, right?
No, you're not. You're going to call, and you'll get a automated voice that will read back to you your phone number and the address that it thinks you live at, and then prompt you to press 1 if you're out of power. And that finishes the call. You can hang up at that point, and we will take care of the issue from there.
So that's the 515-239-5240 number.
That's right.
I've called. I've talked to the machine. The machine has, parroted back my address, and I hang up the phone.
Yes.
Now, I think what is a surprise to some people is I will get a call back.
In some cases, when we don't have a lot of call volume, our operators will call you right back to find out what the issue is. On a larger spread outage, we don't have the staffing to call back 200 people within the hour, so you may not get a call back if it's severe weather or we have a larger outage.
And sometimes I'll call back and say, is your power been restored?
That's right, and they may try and help you walk through examining your power panel, make sure that your main breaker's on, so they can help sometimes assisting you to diagnose your own problem if it seems to be internal. If that doesn't work, if we are confident that it's an external problem, we will dispatch a crew to go out.
So something that I think is interesting is that people will look across the street or they'll look down the block and say, oh, my neighbor's power's off. So, I'm sure somebody's called in and I'm not going to do it. Or I've even talked to my neighbor, and my neighbor will say, oh, I called it in. We're good. Mm-hmm. You probably don't recommend relying on that.
No, there's a lot of cases where you and your neighbor are on separate circuits, and so if you're both out of power and he's reported his or she has, and you haven't reported yours, we may not know that you're out of power. So it's very important that you always call, even if a neighbor has told you that they called, or even if it's been several hours and you think, oh, somebody's called in.
Yeah, I don't want to be a bother. That's
right.
I don't want to be a bother, but you're saying that information is actually helpful.
It's very helpful for us. It's the only way actually that we know that our customers are out of power if they report it to us.
Okay. And something else interesting, it's taking advantage of new technology, the outage reporting map. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, we recently launched our outage reporting map. So in the case that we do have an outage, we have a website that's running all the time that will show all of our areas that we know that we have power out in town. So if you're curious if you're included in an outage area or not, there is a website link. It's www.cityofames.org/electric outage. We can publish that as well. And you go to that website, it gives you all the information you need on how to report your outage. It gives you all the phone numbers. It also gives a map of the city and shows where our current outage areas are. And that's live all the time. It shows even when we're doing maintenance in the city and have certain customers shut off to do upgrades on their circuits.
So I'm in my dark house, I get my iPad out and it's charged, so I'm working off my battery. I pull up my internet and I'll be able to see how large of an outage that is, how many people are affected by that.
That's right, and there'll be colored shapes over top of the outage area, and if you're inside that shape, it's likely that you're included in that outage. And it does give some brief information about whether we've assigned crews to it or not. We don't update that often with a lot of information, but it does give you the extent of the outages and the other information you might need. If you have other problems like a power line down or a tree on a line, it gives you the right phone numbers to call for those as well.
And is it updated in real time?
It is. It's updated up about every 2 minutes. So when we restore power in the field, we restore it in the system as well, and that should be within 2 minutes. It'll show that we've got power back.
So again, that was cityofames.org/ Electric outage.
Electric outage, no space.
You want to bookmark that.
That's right.
That's great. So what are some other things? I know that the Electric Services Department has a tree trimming program.
That's right.
I know sometimes we get concerned calls, people saying, there's trees going into my wires, and how do I handle that? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. We have a full-time crew of tree trimmers that go around and trim all of our electric services. We concentrate mainly on the primary or high voltage lines. They make it through the whole city about every 5 years. So if you haven't seen them in a while, it might be that you're just on the next year's cycle. But we do trim upon request too. If somebody calls in and reports a tree growing close to a power line, we'll come out and evaluate, and we'll trim back 10 feet to keep reliable power in those areas. So we're actively trimming in West and Southwest Ames right now, and that rolls through the city throughout the year.
And then there is a portion of the distribution that the customer themselves are responsible for.
Right. Our focus mainly is high voltage lines because that's where we see most of our outages from tree growth. We don't typically trim near the secondary lines, the ones that connect directly to the house, but we will disconnect those wires so that our customers can hire their own or do their own tree trimming without risking damaging their electric service. So we do provide a service to disconnect those wires so they can do their own trimming.
So we're in summer. This is a peak season for electric usage. Obviously, you are always promoting conservation, safety, dependability,
Absolutely.
Reliability. Any other messages you want to share with our viewers today?
Conservation is probably the most important during this time of the year. If we can keep our peak usage through the whole city low, it will delay the need to build new generation or buy additional capacity in the system, which will keep all of our costs lower. So conservation is a direct impact on all of our rates within the electric system.
Great. Obviously, put those air conditioners up a few degrees, use some ceiling fans, and close the drapes.
That's right. And we also have our program, a Power Watch program, that will publish out through a phone number and through our website the current status of our system, how heavy electric usage is right now. And we also have a program to install switches on air conditioners that will allow customers to get a $20 rebate per year on their electric bill by giving us the opportunity to cycle off air conditioners during the peak usage times. Most customers would never know that we've ever shut off the air conditioner units because it rolls throughout the city, but that's another program to help us control costs by reducing our peak.
Yeah, I have that program, never even realize it's on, so that's another great tip for our viewers. Well, Tim, I know you're busy. It's your busy season. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes and stopping in.
Thank you, Susan.
Well, if you're looking for something to do for the remainder of the summer, remember Thursday nights are a great time to go to Bandshell Park. The Ames Municipal Band plays at 8 p.m. at Ames Bandshell Park with a pre-show at 7 p.m. Always a great time for fun and family and great music. Well, that's our show for today. Thanks for watching, and tune in next week for This Week in Ames.